everyone knows he's doing well. Granted, the Saints secondary was awful that last drive, but again, they forced an interception earlier. You can't really complain much about the defense. I feel like it was the offense that gave that game up.
I'm gonna give the Pats D some credit here. What are they? Jimmy Graham, no touchdowns. That was really, really good. I mean, he's coming in, best tight end of the league. All the talk about is him versus Gronkowski. Gronkowski going to play, and Akeem Talib just shut him down. That was a very big part of the Pats win there, and credit to that defense, which has had some very big problems over the last few seasons.
And I think Jimmy Graham was coming off 400-yard receiving games. Incredible.
Yeah, so and even when Akeem Talib went down, the other guys just stepped up. That was very impressive to me. And if the Pats are going to do anything going forward, that defense is going to have to play the same way, finding who the top guy is, taking him out, and just leaving it up to Tom Brady. But what do you guys think about Gronkowski? I mean, all the reports leading up to the game was saying he was going to play, but then each day it seemed to get worse and worse. He's had injury problems in the past. He's had motivational issues in the past, too much partying, not really wanting to play in the games. Is this a big factor going forward to the Pats? I think it is.
I don't think it's as big of a factor as people are saying. I feel like it's definitely impacting the Pats because they don't have a receiving option. Amendola is out. He might be out in the next game, and he hasn't been playing well with that groin injury. And it takes time to come back from that. And obviously it's shown that the receivers they have are dropping the ball. Kimbrel Tompkins, while he might have caught that touchdown pass, you look at how many drops he has, it's ridiculous. But I feel like the Pats are doing the right thing. They brought him back. They rushed him back for the playoffs last year. He got hurt, and now he's injured all the way up till now. I think they're taking their time. They're making sure that he is 100%, not 70%, not risking an injury, so that when he comes back, he will return to the form he was in 2 years ago when he had that monster season.
I think with Gronkowski, he brings negativity to the Patriots, and it's bringing them bad karma in a way because he's showy, and it's just not what the Patriots need right now. They're doing it without showy players. They're doing it with good wide receivers, and I just think that when Gronk comes back, obviously it will be a good addition, but for now I think they can deal without him.
I'm not going to say that the Patriots need Gronkowski to win the division, win a title, whatever you want to say. It's definitely going to be helpful, but just the fact that he's there right now creating the problems. I mean, he is practicing with the team, and then I know that there are reports that Patriots players were confused to why he's not playing if he's in practice. I mean, Tom Brady threw the ball to 8 different receivers, so I'm not worried about Brady and who he's throwing to, but I think that's a very big distraction for the Pats with everything else they've had to deal with. That's the biggest thing for me.
I'm not so much worried with Gronk as a distraction. Like, this team's gone through a lot. You realize this offseason they went through the whole Hernandez ordeal. That had to be huge. I feel like they know Gronk wants to come back. I feel like, yes, they did see him partying after they lost that Super Bowl 2 years ago to the Giants. But it's Gronk. He's young. He has a bunch of brothers he likes to go out with. I don't feel like he's bringing the team down as much as people are saying. I think Belichick knows how to deal with this. I think the team has enough experience to deal with it. I think they just need to wait it out. It's going to take some time. It could be a few more games. But as long as he's back by the playoffs, I think they'll be fine.
In a way, Gronkowski kind of reminds me of Jeremy Shockey. Speaking of the 2 Super Bowls in 07 and 11, when Shockey went out with his broken leg, the Giants played even better without him. And I just feel like, similar to Gronkowski, the Patriots will play better without him.
All right, we'll move on from here. Just to say again, big win for the Patriots. For all you fans who were at the game and left before you got to see that, you really missed a historical event. That's why I always say never leave a game till it's over. Patriots 5.2% chance of winning that game, and of course they do. So this is very big going forward. We'll stay with the AFC East. We had our friend Damien on last week, big Jets fan. I think everyone in New York thought that the Jets were going to take this one to the Steelers. Hadn't won a game at home, coming off a big win against the Falcons, but Geno Smith just not showing up. No touchdowns for him. Just a sad day for Jets fans.
It was sad. I feel bad. The Jets look like they're coming back. Geno Smith looks like he could be the new savior, even though he still sort of reminds me of Sanchez when he first got into the league. Just because Sanchez never really had that good of play, it was always inconsistent, but they still managed to win, and that's what they've been doing this year. But a win's a win, and that's what they've been getting. And then they come up against the winless Steelers, who have been down their luck, haven't been playing too well, and they let this win slide to them. I just don't know what to say. The Jets have proven me wrong every time this year. Just when I think they're going to win a game, they end up losing. Just when I think they're going to lose a game, they end up winning. I don't even know what to say. Geno Smith's just, you never know what you're going to get.
Well, I took notice of how Ben Roethlisberger played a couple years ago. He was a phenomenal quarterback, Pro Bowl, all of that, and he went 23 for 30 with 264 yards in the air and 1 touchdown. So it took me back to when he was at his prime, playing really well. And I think that if he can play well and the defense keeps playing well, that the Steelers can gather some more wins.
Just to bring up Ben Roethlisberger, I've never been the biggest fan of him. I mean, you look at the guys he's been throwing to in the past, Mike Wallace, Hines Ward, some really, really quality receivers. And this year he really doesn't have any of those guys. Even Antoine Randall was a great receiver for him. And I think this year's really showing not the true talent of Ben, but he is a good quarterback. You can't take away from his Super Bowl wins, what that team has done, but definitely the defense on that team, not what it used to be. And I think this Steelers team is really showing it. They did get their first win against the Jets. We'll see if we can move on from there.
I agree with you. I was surprised. I thought the Steelers have been on a decline, and they remind me a lot of the Ravens, who are their big rivals and who everyone compares to them. But the thing is that the Ravens, when they knew they were old after last year, they knew they needed to let go of some players. They knew Ed Reed had to go. They knew they needed to get a youth movement going, and they knew that this year they're probably not going to be as good. And I feel like the Steelers should have done that maybe 2-3 years ago. They should have realized that some guys are getting old. They need to get some new, better players, trade away some older guys. Obviously, you're not going to trade away Troy Polamalu because he's the life and blood of the team. But you need to get some youth in there. You need to get some guys that are going to do some things. And they just haven't done that. They haven't progressed since the last time they got to the Super Bowl. And I feel like the Ravens have. They know what they need to do. Ozzie Newsome's putting the Ravens on the right track when the Steelers, they just had a good run, but they're not really preparing themselves for the future. And I think it's definitely showing now. They got this win over the Jets, but I don't really see a whole lot coming in the future. Not to say that they're going to get rid of Roethlisberger, because it's hard to just get rid of a franchise quarterback that's gotten you to 3 Super Bowls, and obviously he hasn't been playing awful. I think it's more the team itself. But they need to get some pieces around him. They need to get a better offensive line. They got a lot of problems they got to fix, and it might take a while.
I think in terms of the next 2 weeks, they have Baltimore, who hasn't lived up to their potential, and then they have Oakland, a team where they're struggling with their rookie quarterback, Terrell Pryor. And I think they can pull out the next 2 wins, but then they have New England, so you never know there. But I hope the Steelers get a couple wins under their belt.
Yeah, Chase, you brought up the Ravens. Let's head in that direction. Big game against the Packers. We brought up last week. Probably the best quarterback in the league, Aaron Rodgers. You can argue that. Against the Super Bowl champions. Should have been a good game. It was a good game, but not for what you would think. I mean, no touchdowns in the first half alone. Ray Rice, only 34 yards. Ravens had 2 opportunities, 3rd and goal at the 1, 4th and goal at the 1. They tried to pound it in twice. Packers D with a big stop. That game seemed very sloppy to me. I was expecting more. That coming into the season, Ravens and Packers could arguably be a good playoff matchup, maybe Super Bowl that you could see. But just a sad game for me, I think. I expected a lot more out of those 2 guys. Joe Flacco, obviously, we talked about with the big extension raise on his contract. Should have performed better, and I was expecting more from Rodgers.
I'll agree with you. This was a defensive game. Both teams played great defense. It was sloppy because you think both these teams are going to have good, high-powered offense with Ray Rice on the Ravens, Aaron Rodgers, and how many receiving targets. However, Cobb went down, but I feel like the Packers' offense just hasn't been producing what it should. Maybe it's because of the offensive line. I know they lost Beluga in the preseason, but they just haven't showed the spark that they had 2 years ago or on their Super Bowl run 3 years ago. They need to prove some things. They don't seem to have the feel of an elite contender. They keep having these close games when they should pull away and just win, but they're not. I'm not sure what to think of the Packers. I want to say that they're elite contenders, but every week they have these close games. Granted, this one was against the Ravens, and the Ravens had a very good defensive game, but I don't know what to say about the Packers. I don't know where they're going to go. They're going to get into the playoffs, that's for sure. Well, it's not for sure, but it looks like it. But we're going to have to see where they're going to go from here.
And Joe Flacco, to me, he always puts up the yards. I mean, 342 yards. I think that was the most for Week 6. But he never comes in late. He never can get the Baltimore Ravens a win. I mean, they did go to the Super Bowl last year, granted, but he's not clutch. And Jordy Nelson had a really big game, 4 receptions, 113 yards. So that was good for Green Bay, but I think both of these teams haven't played up to their potential.
I was impressed by Eddie Lacy. I mean, he came through for that team. 120 yards carrying, no touchdowns, but they didn't need it. The Packers are going to have to use him more. Randall Cobb out, projected to come back Week 15. James Jones shaken up in that game. Not sure if he's going to play the next week. But, Devin, you brought up Jordy Nelson. He had a great game. They're going to need players like him to step up, especially with Cobb gone. Jones might not be back. Jermichael Finley had a good game, too, 75 yards. So I would consider this Packers team to be elite. Maybe not as how we've seen them before, but this game actually answered some pretty good questions for me. Would have liked to seen a little more from Rodgers, as I brought up, but the guys surrounding Rodgers really came through, and they're going to have to fight now with the injuries.
I don't know if I can exactly agree with that. As I said, I don't know if they're 100% elite yet. I like the team, and they have the pieces there, and we've seen what they can do, but they need to show a little more. I think that you need to come over this Ravens D. They're good, but elite teams are going to beat that. That's what makes them elite. And they won, but Packers need to put up more than what they did. 19 points is not a whole lot. However, I feel that Ravens, all the Ravens are looking to do is get to the playoffs. The Ravens are a so-so team. You could look at last year; they went into the playoffs 9-7, 10-6. They weren't that good of a team. They lost. I'm a Redskins fan. I saw them lose to the Redskins. They gave that game away. But once they get to the playoffs, you look at how Flacco did in the playoffs. If he can replicate even half of that, you have to consider them a contender once they get to the playoffs, just because of how good he plays there. Regular season might not be the same, but when he gets to the playoffs, he could definitely take over and go for a Super Bowl run.
All right, thanks, guys. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Dear friend, you've helped me study my way through school. When I thought I was alone, you were right there. When times were tough, you were there to lean on. And when nobody would listen, you always said, "Tell me." Then came the time when you said you had a mental health problem. Well, my friends, as you always said you would be there for me, I'm here for you. Together, we will recover.
To learn more about mental health problems, go to whatadifference.samhsa.gov/native. This message is brought to you by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Did you know that 77 million Americans have limited health literacy skills? Hi, I'm Mary Brooks Beatty, President of Women in Government. We want you to know that not understanding basic health information can lead to delayed diagnosis, increased risk of hospitalization, and even mortality. Talk with your doctor about the concerns you have about your medical conditions and medications. Don't be afraid to ask questions. To learn more, visit womeningovernment.org.
Funding provided by Novartis Pharmaceuticals.
Hi, I'm Mary Brooks Beatty, President of Women in Government. I'm here to remind you that October is Health Literacy Month. Health literacy means understanding basic information and services needed to make appropriate decisions about your health. Did you know that 77 million Americans have limited health literacy skills? This lack of health literacy could cost society over $100 billion. On behalf of Women in Government, an organization of state policymakers, I want to tell you that the lack of understanding basic health information can lead to delayed diagnosis, increased risk of hospitalization, and even mortality. That's why it's so important for you or a loved one not to be afraid to ask questions. Instead, talk to your health care provider about concerns you may have about your medical conditions and medications. To learn more, visit womeningovernment.org. That's womeningovernment.org.
Funding for this project was provided by Novartis Pharmaceuticals.
And we're back with The Lounge, Fairfield University's NFL talk show, Wednesdays 3:30 to 4:30. So, Chase, you're the Redskins fan of the group. Sunday night football game, Redskins-Cowboys, all the hype was there in Dallas, but I just don't think your Redskins performed. That was a pretty good win for the Cowboys. Kind of solidified themselves as the top team, the NFC East. Only 3-3. Your thoughts on the game?
I try to look at it positively, being a Skins fan. It's hard because Dallas, they won that game. I'd say a lot of it's just due to Dwayne Harris. Our Redskins special teams blew it. They allowed an 85-yard return, punt return, and a kickoff return for a touchdown. You can't let that happen. Like, that's what made the game. It's 31-16. It both resulted in 14 points for the Cowboys. This would have been a different game if that hadn't happened. I feel like Skins did look better on defense. The 31 points, remember, 14 points are from special teams pretty much. The defense looked better. RG3's looking a little bit more like his older self. You look at his rushing stats. He rushed for 60, 70 yards.
77 actually.
77, and he's starting to look better. Granted, his passing game isn't the same, but that game he did look like he's starting to return. Every game since the beginning of the year, it looks like he's shaking off more and more rust. They didn't get the points that they usually get. They started off with 9 points, having 3 drives into the red zone, but only getting field goals out of it. A bit painful. If they had scored maybe 1 touchdown out of that, I feel like it could have changed the game a lot. The game, it was a lot closer. Cowboys did perform very well. Romo's good, but the Redskins were never able to put him in that clutch moment where he needed to win the game for the Cowboys, which I feel like the Redskins needed to do. Even if they were down, the Redskins were down, they could put it within 1 possession with the last 5-6 minutes of the game. But we'll see.
Yeah, like you said, Chase, RG3 played well. He's shaking off the rust that he had earlier in the season. And Alfred Morris also played well. He had 16 carries for 81 yards. And I actually read a story a couple days ago that Alfred Morris, he has a 2002 Acura, a very not-so-nice car for a NFL superstar. And he's a really humble guy. He comes from a not-so-great area, and he shows that he still has the thoughts of where he came from by humbling himself driving a not-so-nice car. And I just thought that was funny, and I think he's a great guy.
He actually calls the car Bentley, or at least the teammates gave the car that name.
Yeah, not quite a Bentley, my man.
No.
Yeah, my thoughts on the game, sorry to our friend Chase here, is this really ended the Redskins seasons. I mean, they're coming off a bye. You have 2 weeks to prepare for the Cowboys, division rival. RG3 looking like himself again, and you can't pull it off. Not even that close of a game, so this one is tough if you're a Redskins fan. But a big story to me is the Cowboys lose both DeMarcus Ware and Murray. 2 big losses for them. That's going to be very important going into the weeks coming up. Not sure how long they're out for, but if they are out for a good period of time, it's time for Tony Romo to step up, earn the money, that he's making, and we'll see where this Cowboys can go. But definitely a big win for them. Sunday Night Football, good division battle. And you guys got anything else on that game?
Not a whole lot. I think it definitely determines who's going to win the East. I think Redskins did blow it. I think it's going to be down to Cowboys and Eagles.
All right, how about the Rams and Texans game? I know we were all talking last week. This is the Texans' one shot, get back on track. Not really playing that good of a team. But wow, Rams 38, Texans 13. Schaub goes down with an injury. The Houston fans cheer. That's just kind of despicable to me. I mean, if you want to boo a guy if he's not playing well, that's one thing. But to cheer when he gets hurt, it's just sad. I mean, football players do so much more than play a game. They're out in the community. They're donating to charity, so that was kind of sad. But sadder to me is just to watch this Texans team go down. Playoff team last year, a lot of hype this year. I'll admit they were my AFC Super Bowl contender, so they would be in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
So that kind of makes me feel a little bad that they're having such a rough year. And what are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I definitely agree with you. I had Houston going very far into the playoffs. They definitely were a favorite, but looking at this year, I mean, they need a lot of help at the quarterback position especially. Schwab hasn't been playing well, but for the fans to ridicule him when he's injured and basically cheer for the fact that he's injured is just not classy whatsoever. But for the Rams, I mean, got to give the credit to them. They played a really, really good game. Sam Bradford, who hasn't really played well the last couple of years, he's coming into his own, and he had 117 yards. He was 12 for 16. And their running game also showed with Zach Stacy. He had 79 yards on 18 carries. And defensively, James Laurinaitis, the Ohio State grad, had a fumble recovery, which was good for them. And I don't know how St. Louis looks for their schedule ahead, but if they can gather a couple more wins, I think they could be a playoff team.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about these Houston fans. They're starting to look like Philadelphia fans. They're showing up at Schaub's house, banging on his door, threatening him, and then when he gets injured, they're clapping, they're cheering, they're liking it. It's like booing Donovan McNabb when he was drafted, which the Eagles fans did. Granted, they do have reasons for doing it, though. Schaub hasn't been playing well at all. You can see when he got injured, if I were a fan of the Texans, I wouldn't be that mad. Granted, I wouldn't be cheering for it, but I'd want to see what TJ Yates can do. He's because you saw he could get to the Texans to the playoffs 2 years ago. We'll see. Also, I just wanted to note J.J. Watt. He was coming off an NFL Defensive Player of the Year award, and he hasn't been doing much for the Texans this season.
All right, real quick, not that big of a game, but we got to talk about them. My Eagles, big win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nick Foles stepping in for Mike Vick. He won the NFC Player of the Week for this past week. 3 touchdowns, 296 yards. We don't have to talk about this game, but just want to say give them a shout-out. Got to do it. So we'll head now. We'll stick to the Texans division, go with the Colts, which are obviously the dominant team in there, but kind of a shocking loss on Monday Night Football to the Chargers. Probably my upset of the week. I mean, I don't know anyone who had the Chargers over the Colts. I mean, I saw a couple people on ESPN picking them, but the majority said that the Colts were going to win. No touchdowns by them. That's with Andrew Luck got nothing. Trent Richardson nothing. But even though the Colts lost, big story out of this game, Reggie Wayne, 1,000 career catches. I think he's 9th all-time on the list. So congrats to him. He's had a great career. I'd have to agree with you. This Chargers team looks good. Rivers looks like he's back to his old self when he was with LT. Maybe it's the new coaching out. Norv Turner's out of there, but this Colts team blew it. I thought the Colts were going to win. As I said last week, the Colts are inconsistent. They're young. They're going to have games where they lose to teams they shouldn't.
But at the same time, I feel like the Chargers just played very well. I don't feel like the Colts just let the Chargers have this. Granted, they didn't put up the points they should, but I got to give the Chargers credit, especially Phillip Rivers. He's playing out of his mind right now.
Sure, absolutely. You got to give credit where it's due. Phillip Rivers played phenomenal. And going back to the draft where Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning were drafted this season, I kind of wish we had Phillip Rivers. Last couple, I'd stick with Eli, but oh man. And Phillip Rivers has made a really good combination with his receiver Keenan Allen. They hooked up for 9 receptions for 107 yards, which was really good. And defensively, the Chargers held the Colts on third down almost every possession, so the Colts couldn't score any points there.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good game. Good Monday Night Football game. That one was fun to watch. Pretty close the whole way. And so now we'll head to another game this week. We got our boy Devin here, Giants fan.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday Night Football game. I know a bunch of people thought that it was going to be Eli's turn. Coming off a big loss to the Eagles. He had to be upset about that one. Thursday night, nationally televised. Against a struggling Bears team, they had lost 2 in a row. If there was ever a time that the Giants were going to turn their season around, it was then, and that just didn't happen. So we'll go to Devin on this one. What are your thoughts, Giants fans? What's the consensus in New York? Is everyone giving up? I've heard that Tom Coughlin will have the choice at the end of the year if he wants to stay with the Giants. Any talks of Eli being benched? You're the expert on this.
Oh, yeah. It's unfortunate that I have to talk about this right now, but the Giants are 0-6 for the first time since 1976, where they started off 0-9. And the Giants have been such a good team in the past years. And one thing I noticed in particular was that the last couple seasons, Eli Manning has been known in the fourth quarter to be absolutely phenomenal, to come within like 20 seconds and get the Giants the win. But this season especially, he's been absolutely awful in the fourth quarter. He's had picks in almost every quarter, and he's just not playing well. And in terms of the future, I as a Giants fan, I have to want to give Tom Coughlin at least to finish out this season, and maybe even one more. Let's see if we can get a good draft pick and perhaps get Jadeveon Clowney, outstanding outside linebacker from South Carolina, which would be awesome. But as far as this season goes, hey, if we can get a couple more wins, I'll be happy. It's just our team is really just awful. And, hey, Brandon Jacobs did play well, though. He had 22 carries for 106 yards. And Reuben Randall has been playing well, which is good. John Beeson, who got traded from Carolina, he had 11 tackles in the game. So those are some positive things to take out of it. Anything else, boys?
Yeah, I look at this Giants team. They lost to the Bears, but there are good things to take out of this game compared to the others. Reuben Randall looks like he's playing well. I feel like they're going to be fine with letting Knicks go after this season because of that. Eli Manning, they put them, Grant, he did throw that interception, which has been killing him throughout this season. But they put themselves in contention. They had that last drive, which in other games they weren't even close enough to have. I feel like they are going to get some wins, but it's still going to take a while. If you look on the Bears side, they needed this win. They had just come off of 2 losses from the Lions and Saints. They started off 3-0. They were 3-2. They needed to get this win to get back on track.
All right, so we're running out of time here on our first half of the show, which we recap the game. So a couple of shout-outs for games we couldn't get to. Chiefs 6-0, big win over division rival, the Raiders. Still rooting for Andy Reid. He was the coach for the Eagles for a long time. Glad to see they're doing well. Bengals, nice win over the Bills in overtime. They're up to 4-2, leading that AFC North. A pretty close game out in the NFC West with the 49ers and Cardinals. 49ers took that game into the fourth quarter, only up by 2, but come out up by 12. And then the Broncos-Jaguars. I don't know if you guys have any quick thoughts, but obviously that game was supposed to be a rout, and for quite a while it wasn't. Peyton Manning throwing some touchdowns like he always does. They ended up winning by a pretty good margin, but that first half of the game was very close. But just props to Peyton Manning, what he's doing this season. And I'm still happy because I got Welker and Decker on my fantasy team. No Sean Moreno, 3 touchdowns. That's pretty big.
Yep, that game, granted, the Broncos might not have reached their 30-point spread, but they won the game. I felt like they sort of took it almost as a bye week. You could look at the players; they were sort of joking around. They said they needed to practice like the Jaguars were a contender, but I think they knew they were going to win this. And this is one of the few times that a team can actually, I feel, do that and get away with it just because of how good the Broncos are and how bad the Jaguars are.
I have to mention it. What about Tim Tebow? The man, the myth. Got to get him on the Jaguars ASAP. If not the Jaguars, get him on the Giants. I mean, Blaine Gabbert's not good. Eli Manning's not good. I think Tim Tebow could bring some good things to either the Giants or the Jaguars.
And another game this week, last week, Browns and Lions has kind of ended the Browns' glory streak. They were 3-0 since trading Richardson, but then lost to the Lions. Lions are an interesting team. Now you got them 4-2, Bears are 4-2, and Packers are 3-2. That NFC North is shaping up to be pretty good. Seattle with a very close game to the Titans, but they end up pulling it out. They're still at the top of the NFC West. And we'll finish our recap with the Panthers-Vikings. A lot of stories to this. We won't touch on the main story too much, but props to Adrian Peterson playing in that game, taking like a champ. All thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family. Mm-hmm. But another big story, this game, Panthers with a rout over them, Cam Newton with a big game. I know, Devin, you have some good stats on Newton.
Yeah, Newton was 20 for 26 with 242 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 on the ground. So definitely a great game for Newton. And in regards to Adrian Peterson, I love the guy. He's an idol on the field and off the field, and I just wish him the best for him and his family.
Yeah, this Panthers team, they came out and they showed the Vikings how good they can be. Granted, the Panthers are just up and down all season. They'll win a game, they'll lose a game. You never know what's going to happen with the Panthers. And I guess this was one of their games where they just, decided to take over. But I have to give props to Adrian Peterson. He didn't have the greatest game, understandably so. But this Viking team has a lot to work out. I don't know how they're going to solve it. You look at, they might have maybe a QB change, as we can tell. They put in Freeman. They got Freeman, who they recently picked up, but they need to do something to get back on track. Obviously, it looks like this season's lost, but to get back on track for the future, they have some significant problems to fix.
All right, thanks, guys. That concludes the first half of the show. I know we went into a little bit of the second half. We're going to head to a commercial. And when we come back, we will be previewing the big games for next week. Get you guys set for this coming weekend of football. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Move Time Radio, presented by the Arthritis Foundation, and we're smack dab in the middle of our dance-a-thon to fight arthritis pain. Me, I've been grooving for 10 hours straight, baby, but I'm a boogie machine. See, movement is just one of the ways to help fight osteoarthritis pain. Another is weight loss. You get rid of just 1 pound. That's 4 pounds of pressure off each knee. For more information on managing pain, visit fightarthritispain.org. Then meet me on the dance floor. This message brought to you by the Arthritis Foundation and the Ad Council. Welcome to Move Time Radio, presented by the Arthritis Foundation. Ah, that's a good one. Get up and dance, baby. If you're driving, pull over to the shoulder. If you're at work, yeah, time to violate the employee handbook. See, movement is just one of the ways to help fight osteoarthritis pain. Another is weight loss. You get rid of just 1 pound. That's 4 pounds of pressure off each knee. For more information on managing pain, visit fightarthritispain.org, baby. This message is brought to you by the Arthritis Foundation and the Ad Council.
Mom, Dad, I'm in 8th grade now. Those years of peer pressure are way behind me. Right now, alcohol is the last thing on my mind. So please, don't have a real conversation with me about drinking. Like you said, I'm too young, right?
Real kids are curious about alcohol. 40% try it by the 8th grade. Start a real conversation at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. Talk early, talk often, get others involved. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
My name is Ruth Rusi, and this is how I live United. I read to children as part of United Way's education program. It helps them create links between language and literacy and prepares them for a better academic future. I figure I have the time and they have the need. My name is Ruth Rusi. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering in. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
My name is Tom Thornton.
And we're back with The Lounge, Fairfield University's NFL talk show. So now we're going to preview next week's games. We're going to start in a pretty interesting story today. Josh Freeman named the starting quarterback for the Vikings. They have the Monday Night Football game this week against the Giants.
The New York Football Giants.
And this is interesting because, you know, Christian Ponder took the Vikings to the playoffs last year. Not the best start. What do you guys think about this? I think that it's time for the Giants to get their first win of the year. Freeman's not going to come through. He's going to be the same quarterback he was on the Buccaneers. The only difference now is that he is Adrian Peterson to take some of the load off him, but it's Eli Manning's time, and it's going to happen on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I must say, this is a must-win for the New York Giants. I mean, we just need to win. Eli needs to put up good numbers without throwing interceptions, and Brandon Jacobs needs to have at least 100 yards on the ground for us to win. And defensively, we just need to stop Adrian Peterson. Josh Freeman isn't the best quarterback, so the only worries we should have is about stopping Adrian Peterson.
I think this game's going to come down to Adrian Peterson versus John Beeson.
Absolutely.
It's 11 tackles last game from Beeson, and I feel like Adrian Peterson's going to come out strong. And last week he might not have, but there's reasons why. I feel like he's going to come out strong, and it's going to depend on if Peterson has a big game or not as to who wins this.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's not that great of a Monday Night Football game. Let's be honest. It probably would have been last year, so we won't spend too much time on it. Just wanted to mention them because of the new QB situation. So now we'll turn to a more interesting game. The Cowboys and the Eagles, both 3-3, both coming off good wins. Basically, we'll decide who is taking the first place in the NFC East. Big story out of this game is Nick Foles will remain the starter. That is the third game. Well, he came in at halftime two games ago, started last week, and now it's his job again. Michael Vick's still rehabbing an injury, but he is listed as active, so you know he could play if it really counted on. The interesting thing with this is that when Nick Foles took that starting job just because Vick was injured, Chip Kelly said there was absolutely no way that this job would turn to Foles. But after completing the game with the Giants, big win against the Bucs, Chip Kelly is now saying that once Mike Vick is healthy, the situation will be reevaluated. So this is anyone's job. Basically, if Foles wins this game and the Eagles can dominate the Cowboys, he is the starting QB, no questions asked. You can't go against him. But if he can't get it done, it's Michael Vick's job, and the Eagles will be in trouble because this Cowboys team is looking very good. And if they want to make it this year, it's not going to be with a wild card. You got to win the NFC East.
It's going to be a good game. I don't know who's going to win. I think Cowboys have a very strong offense. I think Des Bryant he didn't do very well against the Redskins last week. Not even 40 yards. But I still consider him a top 5, if not top 3 receiver in the league with how he's played in all the games before that. And will the Eagles secondary with Kerry Williams, and they don't even have any big names. They lost Osmo. They lost Rogers Cromartie. We're going to see if they can keep up with Des Bryant, Miles Austin, and Jason Witten.
Yeah, definitely. I think this game is going to be a shootout between the Cowboys and the Eagles. Quick stat, the Eagles and the Denver Broncos are the only team to have 400 yards in all of their games so far. So obviously the Eagles have a high-powered offense, but can they play defense and stop the high-powered offense of the Cowboys?
The only thing I'm worried about with this game is that the best player on the Philadelphia Eagles is LaShawn McCoy, best running back in the league, definitely showing that this year, except his numbers do drop considerably when Nick Foles is starting and it's not Mike Vick. So I think even if Foles has a good game here, the best weapon on that team is LaShawn McCoy, and if Mike Vick brings LaShawn's best game, then that's who needs to start. I'm not sure, as mentioned earlier in the show, if the Cowboys are going to have DeMarcus Ware, but that'll be huge if they don't. Nick Foles, not a running quarterback. He's got to stay in that pocket, look for his receivers, and everything should be good. That'll be a fun game to watch, and you guys have any more thoughts on it?
Not a whole lot. I feel like the Eagles, they have a fairly easy road after this. They play Dallas next week, but then they play New York, Oakland, Green Bay, Washington, and then they have their bye. Green Bay's the only team out of those 4, as much as I hate to say I'm being a Redskins fan, that stands much of a threat to the Eagles. Washington could get interesting, but we'll see. Oakland hasn't proven much. You look at how they played against the Chiefs this last week. They just got obliterated. And New York, as we just talked about, they haven't been doing too well either.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if Philadelphia wants to prove something, they're going to win this week. But even if they lose, I feel like they still have a very big chance of coming back.
Sure, and I think a big factor of it is that the Eagles are home for Sunday's game. So I think the crowd in Philly is going to be really hyped up about the game. And if the Eagles can feed off their home crowd, I think they can pull out the victory.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of the home crowd. Kansas City this week set the record for the loudest outside crowd noise. That's pretty big because Kansas City has not had a lot to cheer about in any sport. So this is huge for the Chiefs. We'll head to that game very quickly because I think it's obvious who's going to win. Chiefs, Texans at home in Kansas City. Don't know who the Texans quarterback's going to be. Alex Smith and Andy Reid seem to be a dynamic duo together. I think it's obviously going to be the Chiefs. Jamal Charles has been playing well. The only way that the Texans are going to take this game is if Arian Foster shows up and has been the guy that we've seen in the past. He's having a pretty good year, but we've definitely seen better from him.
I'm going to have to agree with you. This Saints team looks great overall. Their defense is very underrated, I think, still. You look at how many sacks they put up against the Raiders last week. They caused the longest third down in the history of the NFL, 3rd and 48. It is ridiculous. I think the Saints team is going to run all over the Texans, and with how the Texans have been, they're going through controversy with quarterback. We're going to have to see if they can handle themselves. But even if they could handle themselves, I don't even know if they could beat the Saints team.
And I really feel happy for Andy Reid. He basically got kicked out of Philadelphia, and the way he's changed this Kansas City Chiefs team is just really impressive. And Alex Smith as well. He basically got kicked out of the 49ers program, so they both have something to prove to the rest of the NFL.
What do you guys think about the Ravens-Steelers game coming up this week? I mean, obviously, if this is in the past, this is probably the Sunday night football game. Everyone's probably talking about this game will decide the division. This could be a potential playoff matchup. We've seen these two teams play in the playoffs plenty of times before, but not this season. Both teams have taken a hit. Steelers obviously just got their first win. Ravens sitting at 500 after Super Bowl champions. But I think definitely if they're going to televise this game, this is one to watch. You can never count out a game like this. I know both teams aren't having the greatest year, but anytime two rivals like this stack up, it's going to be a hit show. And my pick for this one is that the Steelers are going to get their second win. I just don't have the confidence in Joe Flacco. Even Ray Rice hasn't performed to what he has either, kind of like Foster. So I'm looking at the Steelers at home taking this one, and this should be a fun one.
I could see the Steelers upsetting the Ravens in this. I still feel like the Ravens are going to win just because you look at how Haloti Ngata and Terrell Suggs played last week and that Steelers offensive line hasn't been up to par. I can't really remember a time that they ever have been. But I feel like they're going to wreak havoc on the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger's a big quarterback, but I don't think he'll be able to shrug off Terrell Suggs or Haloti Ngata.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very good game. It could come down to the last couple minutes of the game. But I do feel like Baltimore is just a better team. Although I don't think Joe Flacco is the best quarterback, I think that he'll have a good game and they'll pull through.
All right, so we talked about the Steelers-Ravens. Let's move on to another NFC North game. The Cincinnati Bengals versus Detroit Lions. Both of these teams have been playing very well this year. You look at the Lions; they sort of come out of nowhere. They had 2 years ago. They looked like a very good team. They looked like they were on track to being a contender on their way to be elite. Last year, they seemed to take a step back. This is a big, very big year for them. They want to prove themselves, and it looks like they have been. Jim Schwartz has been on the hot seat. I feel like he needs to win, and he needs to win this year to stay on the as a coach of the Lions. And with Reggie Bush and how this team's been playing, I feel like they're going to upset the Cincinnati Bengals as well as the Cincinnati Bengals have been playing.
Yeah, both teams 4-2, both fighting for their division. Ravens are right behind the Bengals. Both have beaten some key teams this year. Obviously, Bengals beat the Pats a couple weeks ago. My key to this game is Calvin Johnson going to play, and is he going to be healthy? 2 weeks ago didn't play. This week played limited action. He only caught about 2 or 3 passes. That's going to be huge because I really don't see too many other receiving threats from the Lions. I mean, the only other receiver who has caught a touchdown pass for Matthew Stafford is Reggie Bush, and he's the running back. But he's having a great year. I'm glad for him. I think he got the short end of the stick when he was drafted to the Saints because obviously they don't know how to run the football. And I'm glad to see him on a good team like this. My pick's still going to be the Bengals. I don't think the Lions are the cream of the crop in the NFC North. They're probably that third team. It'll probably come down to the Packers and Bears. They've had some nice runs, but I still don't trust either Dalton or Stafford. If I had to pick the better quarterback, I'm going to say Stafford. But I think the Bengals just have too many other weapons, and if Johnson's not there for Stafford, who else is it going to be?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. I think, like you said, both quarterbacks are good. Dalton's good, and they both have weapons. Andy Dalton has A.J. Green, and Stafford has Calvin Johnson, and Reggie Bush, who, like you said, has been playing really well. And I'm also happy for him because he, especially with that whole Kim Kardashian ordeal, he kind of got the short end of the stick there. And but like you said, Calvin Johnson hasn't played, but last game Joseph Forey had 3 touchdowns, so they have a weapon there, and I think Detroit will win at home.
I think Detroit just has these weapons appearing, and I feel like Reggie Bush, the Browns have always, not the Browns, the Lions have always been seen as this one-dimensional team when they've had Stafford and Calvin Johnson. All they could do is pass, and that's all they've done. Now that they have a good running back in there who's making plays, who's opening up the passing game, who's freeing people like Joseph Foria and allowing him to get these 3 touchdown games, allowing other guys to step up. I feel like that's what's going to make or break this team. If Reggie Bush goes out, I feel like this team's going to be done because they're going to turn back into that one-dimensional team we've seen from them over the past few years.
A couple of NFC West matchups, not too much into them, but look for the Cardinals to maybe pull the upset out in Seattle. They held with the Niners pretty well. Seahawks kind of coming off a pretty bad win against the Titans. Not much to that game last week. So watch for them. I'm also watching the Titans again playing the 49ers. I mean, if they can hold out with the Seahawks, why can't they do it to San Francisco? You guys have any thoughts on either of those two games? I mean, not really that much into them. They're not going to be nationally televised. They're just kind of random games, but you could see some upsets there.
Well, with the Cardinals versus St. Louis, they're both, I feel like, a little bit underrated. Both of those teams have been put down, but both of them are 3-3. They're both not too bad. They've kept. You saw the Cardinals. They kept up with the 49ers last week, and St. Louis just dominated the Texans. It wasn't even close. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think both these teams could surprise. I feel like if they're in AFC, they might have a chance at a wild card. With the NFC being so as tough as it is, I still don't feel like either of these teams are going to be able to contend.
I definitely think that Tennessee can compete with San Francisco. Tennessee had a really good game against Seattle. They only lost 20-13. So I can see them pulling an upset. I still think San Francisco is going to win, but it's a big possibility that they could. Interesting note that for Tennessee, they have Ryan Fitzpatrick, who graduated from Harvard, at the helm at quarterback there. So it would be interesting if he played really well.
So another pretty good game this week is the Patriots-Jets. I mean, we're in Connecticut. We get a lot of Jets fans here. We get a lot of Patriots fans here. That's definitely going to be a fun game. At home in New York for the Jets. Very close game the first time these two teams played. Patriots coming off a very emotional win at home against the Saints. Any possibility that the Jets can pull this together, create the upset? I'm going to say no. I mean, I just can't rely on Geno Smith for anything. Even though that first game was close, the Patriots, now that they've seen them once, I think they're going to roll right over them. You never know, though. Division battles are always fun. Any thoughts on this one?
I don't think the Patriots are just going to roll over the Jets. I feel like the Jets, they've been keeping games close, and I think they're going to put themselves in a position to win, but they're not going to win it. They're going to lose it because of some interception or something. I feel like it's going to be a lot closer. It's going to give the Patriots a scare. I feel like after that Saints win, Patriots are just going to think they're too good. I can sort of tell it from their fans that they beat the Saints, but they need to come back down to earth, realize that they don't have any receivers out there. They're going to be shut down by Antonio Cromartie quite a bit. I feel like he's going to have at least one pick, if not two. I feel like he's just going to hop on, and it's not even going to be Brady's fault. I feel like it's going to be bobbled up in the air by Edelman or Tompkins. But I feel like Pats are going to pull this out. I don't think Brady's going to need a clutch drive, but I feel like in the fourth quarter it's going to be within a touchdown.
I definitely think the Patriots are going to win this game, probably by a lot. But I think that Geno Smith is going to play well. It seems as though, like, throughout the season, he's played well against teams who have winning records, and he's kind of not played well or had interceptions against teams that the Jets should beat. For example, the Steelers last week. I think the Jets should have beat them easily, and he had 2 interceptions. So I think that they could compete, but I still think the Patriots are going to win.
All right. Well, that's a big game, but to finish off the show here, we got 5 minutes left. We got to talk about the biggest game this week: Denver versus Indianapolis.
Hold on. Biggest game of the year. Continue.
It definitely could be. Peyton Manning coming back to Indianapolis. Like, there's going to be a lot of emotions there. Both teams have been playing great this year. Obviously, Indianapolis had that loss to the Chargers, but I feel like they can contend with Denver. Trent Richards isn't going to have to step up. What do you think, Coleman?
Let's just take a minute to appreciate the Denver stats as a team. Points, first with 44.2 a game. Yards, first, 476 per game. Passing yards, 360.7 a game, first. And rushing yards, they're in the middle of that. But No Sean Moreno leads the AFC in touchdowns. So this is just a complete team. You can say all you want. It's Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning is throwing to some top-end receivers. They got 3 running backs. We brought this up last week that can easily be a number 1 star on any team. I'm looking for the emotional side of this. I mean, how is either quarterback dealing with this? How is Peyton going to be received in Indy? I really hope it's a good reception. There was no drama with the trade. The Colts just knew it was time to go, time to start to go in a new direction. But if I have to pick a team, I'm going to say the Broncos. They're just too good. I haven't besides the Cowboys, there hasn't really been one close game, and I just have too much trust in Peyton Manning to get the job done.
I honestly feel bad for the Colts in this game. I think Peyton Manning's going to come out and really, really want to score some points. It's been in the news lately that he and Colts owner Jim Irsay have been conflicting within their thoughts a little bit. So I think that Peyton's going to have a really, really phenomenal game, and Colts defense better watch out.
As Coleman said earlier, I feel like the emotional side is going to be huge for this game. Peyton Manning, like you, if you're a Colts fan, you couldn't respect him anymore. When he left, nobody had any bad feelings towards him. He even knew himself that it'd be crazy if the Colts didn't go and draft Luck and let Peyton leave. You gotta love Peyton. He's a stand-up guy. You gotta love Andrew Luck. He's also a stand-up guy. This is going to be a good game. I feel like Broncos have this. I think Colts would need a big showing out of Trent Richardson, which he hasn't really had yet to win this. I think the only team that's going to beat the Broncos is a team that can run the ball and just keep the Denver Broncos offense off the field, because that's the only way to stop them, is just to keep them off the field, maybe get a defensive touchdown and just try to limit the Broncos on, because whenever they're on, they're pretty much guaranteed at least 3 points.
Week 11 is going to be a great game between the Chiefs, who are 6-0 now, and the Denver Broncos. I'm definitely going to be tuned in for that.
Another thing to watch with this game is it's Von Miller's return, serving his 6-game suspensions. It's Week 7 now. He's ready to go back in. That's going to be huge for the Denver defense, already one of the top defenses in the league. He's definitely, if not his presence, just being there on that D is definitely going to force the Colts to do different things. And just one more fact about this game that I want to say is that the average price for this game is over $1,000. One ticket, average over $1,000. That is huge. This is going to be the game of the year so far. Please don't make plans Sunday night. You need to watch this game. It's going to be history, and you really just can't miss this one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. This game's just going to be so big. You tune in early. There's going to be a ceremony for Peyton Manning before the game. I'm looking forward to that just as much as the game itself. It is going to be historical watching this game. It's something you won't get a whole lot of time to see. You're looking at Peyton Manning, who's one of the best quarterbacks ever, go up against Luck, who has the potential to be just as good as Peyton Manning. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to get to the Jogues Lounge early for that one.
All right, guys, before we end on this one, just to clear Devin's point, the Jogues is the dorm that I live in Chase, and it's where we watch all the games. That's where we got the idea for the name of the show. Thanks for listening. Just want to give a quick shout-out to the Boston Red Sox. Great game last night. They're up 2-1. We got a big game tonight. I think they're going to do it. It'll be great to have them back in the World Series. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with a new special guest. Thanks for Devin for being on the show. We'll definitely have him another time. Wednesdays, 3:30 to 4:30. This has been The Lounge. Thank you.